Let's get right into it. Number 7, changing opinions frequently. You look back at old versions of yourself and almost cringe. The beliefs you argued for, the takes you were sure about, the lines you said you'd never cross. Now some of them feel foreign. People notice too. You've changed. You used to think the opposite. Sometimes it's a joke. Sometimes it's a quiet accusation. And you start to wonder if all this shifting means you're unstable, flaky, or easily influenced. But notice how your opinions actually change. Not overnight. Not because someone told you to. They shift slowly. After new experiences, new information, and new perspectives you can't unsee. Your mind doesn't treat beliefs like sacred objects. It treats them like working models, constantly updated when reality doesn't quite match. Psychologists call this cognitive flexibility, the ability to adapt your thinking when the facts move. It's strongly linked to higher reasoning and complex problem solving. Yes, to people who anchor their identity to never changing, your evolution can look suspicious. They mistake movement for weakness. But your mind was never trying to be consistent for its own sake. It was trying to be accurate, to stay honest, to stay real. You weren't betraying your past self. You were listening to what you've learned since. Number 6, rejecting group consensus. You're in a room where heads start nodding before the sentence even ends. The plan is forming, the decision is settling, and everyone seems relieved to agree. Everyone except you. Something in you hesitates. A quiet alarm goes off in the background. The logic doesn't quite hold. A detail doesn't fit. A risk no one is naming sits just at the edge of your awareness. You could ignore it. Most people do. Agreement feels safer than being the one who resists. But your mind won't let it go. While others enjoy the comfort of consensus, your thoughts slip sideways, testing alternatives, imagining what happens if this goes wrong. You're not trying to be difficult. You're tracking a different layer. Psychologists link this impulse to independent, divergent thinking, the ability to step outside the default and evaluate ideas on their actual merit, not just social approval. In classic conformity studies, only a small minority refused to follow the crowd when the crowd was clearly wrong. You've always felt closer to that minority. It can make you seem stubborn, negative, or uncooperative. But your resistance isn't mindless defiance. It's your intelligence refusing to outsource its judgment. Number 5, switching topics. Mid-conversation. You're halfway through explaining something, and your mouth is already somewhere else. A new angle appears, a connection lights up, and suddenly you're talking about a different example, a side story, or a memory that just surfaced. You can see the confusion on people's faces. They look lost. You feel scattered. Later, you replay it and wonder why you can't just stay on one clean track like everyone else seems to. What feels like chaos on the outside is often a very different process inside. Your mind doesn't move in straight lines. It moves in constellations. One idea sparks 3 more, each one linked by a thread you can feel but struggle to explain. Psychologists call this kind of thinking associative or divergent. It's the pattern behind creativity, problem solving, and original insight. The ability to jump between concepts and see how they fit together. Yes, it can make conversations messy. People may interrupt, redirect, or assume you're not paying attention. But the truth is, you are seeing more, not less. Your challenge isn't thinking clearly. It's slowing your thoughts down enough that others can follow the path you're already on. Number 4, daydreaming at the worst times. You're supposed to be listening. A lecture, a work briefing, a simple conversation. You're there physically, but your attention slips. A phrase triggers a memory, a possibility, a what if, and suddenly you're somewhere else entirely. By the time you return, someone's asking for your opinion or checking if you're still with them. You apologize, blame boredom, and quietly label yourself as unfocused or careless. But inside, something more intricate is happening. Your mind is running its own simulations. One thought opens into a scene, a scenario, a chain of events that hasn't happened yet but could. Psychologists connect this kind of spontaneous mind-wandering to creativity, future planning, and deep problem solving. It's part of how the brain explores possibilities when it's not trapped in the immediate moment. Of course, it can be inconvenient. You miss details, you look disengaged. The world reads it as distraction when, in truth, your thinking has simply zoomed out. Your attention isn't gone, it's roaming. It's scanning timelines, replaying patterns, and testing outcomes you haven't even put into words. You've never just spaced out. Your mind has always been wandering ahead, quietly walking paths no one else in the room has seen yet. Number 3, using simple language. You listen to other people talk and hear a wall of big words, shiny phrases, and complicated explanations. Then it's your turn. You strip it down. You say it the way it actually makes sense in your head. No jargon, no performance. And afterward, a part of you wonders if you just sounded basic. Like everyone else sounded smart and you sounded simple. But that simplicity is rarely an accident. Your mind has already done the hard part, sorting, filtering, and untangling ideas until only the essentials remain. Where others pile on complexity, you remove it. Psychologists talk about the curse of knowledge. Once people understand something, they forget what it's like not to know. They explain from the middle, not the beginning. You instinctively do the opposite. You start at the ground floor and build up. This isn't dumbing things down, it's precision. It's choosing clarity over noise. People come away from your explanations actually understanding, not just nodding along. You may never sound like the flashiest voice in the room, but you're often the one people quietly turn to when they genuinely want it to make sense. You weren't oversimplifying, you were translating complexity into something human. Number 2, often saying, I don't know. You're in a classroom, a meeting, or a conversation where everyone seems to have their answer ready. The question lands in the room, and your mind doesn't rush to fill the silence. Instead, you feel that familiar pause, the honest gap between what you truly know and what you don't. You could fake it. You've seen other people do it. But what comes out, almost against your own instincts, is simple. I don't know. On the surface, it can look like uncertainty, a lack of preparation, or even weakness. But underneath, something more sophisticated is happening. Your mind is drawing a clear line between knowledge and guesswork. Psychologists call this intellectual humility, and it's strongly linked to deeper reasoning and better learning. While many people protect their ego by pretending, your brain is more loyal to truth than to appearance. It doesn't stop there. That I don't know is rarely the end of your thought. It's the beginning. Your next impulse is to ask, to explore, to understand. You don't need to be exposed by others. Your own mind reveals the gaps and then quietly moves to fill them. You were never slow. You were simply honest in a room full of performance. Number 1, social awkwardness. You walk into a room and feel a half second behind everyone else. Jokes land, glances shift, and conversations curve in ways you can't always predict. You replay your own sentences later, catching every awkward pause, every comment that came out slightly offbeat. To others, it might look like you're shy, stiff, or just not very socially skilled. To you, it can feel like proof that something about you didn't quite download correctly. But underneath that visible hesitation is a mind running a far more complicated script. You're not just talking, you're tracking tone, micro-expressions, timing, and unspoken rules. While most people move through social moments on instinct, your brain insists on analysis. Psychologists link this to high social sensitivity and metacognition. You're not only in the interaction, you're observing it in real time. That double awareness can slow you down. It can make simple conversations feel strangely technical. Yet it's also why you notice when someone's mood shifts before they say a word, or when a group's energy changes halfway through a sentence. You were never socially clueless. You were running more data than the situation technically required. And sometimes that extra awareness shows up as awkwardness on the surface. Which of these dumb behaviors felt most like you? Tell me in the comments, hit like and subscribe if this helped. Thanks for watching.